We're in a park where two children are building a sandcastle. The boy watches their progress and frowns. "That's not right," he says. "That's not what I wanted." The girl laughs at his frustration. Just then, an older boy walks up and stomps on their sandcastle, smirking as he mocks them. "Go build somewhere else," he says. The girl begins to cry, heartbroken over the destroyed castle. The boy beside her steps forward, standing up to the bully. "Get off the sandcastle," the boy says firmly. The older boy turns, clearly irritated. "What did you say?" "I said, take your foot off my castle," the boy replies, his expression sharp. For a moment, the bully falters, trying to maintain his tough look, but he's clearly unsettled by the boy's stare. Suddenly, a foot appears in front of him like a shadow. In one swift, acrobatic move, the boy lands a clean kick to the bully's face. The bully crashes to the ground, stunned. The boy stays alert, ready for whatever comes next. The bully rises slowly, wiping his nose. When he sees the blood, he grows, furious. But instead of fighting back, he bursts into tears and cries out for help. The boy stands still, caught off guard. Behind him, the girl hides, seeking protection. A few minutes pass. The bully returns, now with a bandage on his nose, and his older brother by his side. He points. "That's the kid who hit me." The older brother glares, but the boy doesn't respond. He simply stares back, calm and serious. Annoyed, the older brother tries to provoke a reaction. "Hey, you deaf or something?" The boy dodges the question. The irritation builds. "I never learned martial arts," the boy says, voice steady. As the older brother reaches to grab him, the boy steps aside effortlessly, dodging every attempt. Then, spotting an opening, he lands a quick kick between the older brother's legs. The younger bully flinches, startled by the sudden move. "You didn't have to do that to my brother," the younger one complains. The boy responds casually, "I never learned martial arts, but I've always been a troublemaker." He pauses, then adds, "Back then, I didn't care about those childhood fights, but that changed when I got older." A few years later, the boy, now older, is in 5th grade at Moon Elementary School. His way to school, a group of high schoolers stops him, calling him into an alley. One of them, a tall boy, drapes an arm over the boy's shoulder with a strange, fake-friendly grin. "I went to Moon Elementary, too," he says. "Come on, do us a little favor." He begins steering the boy deeper into the alley where more teens are waiting. One of them laughs, teasing the boy named Austin. "You've got a talent for this." A girl in the group rolls her eyes. "Just hurry up." Austin leans in closer to the boy, that odd look still on his face. "So, are you going to help us or not?" The protagonist turns calmly to the high schooler. "What do you want?" he asks. The question annoys Austin, who scowls. "Hand over all your money." Without flinching, the boy replies, "Wow, you guys are so broke. You've got to rob elementary kids now?" The group bursts into laughter. "Did he just call you poor?" one of them mocks, clearly entertained. Austin glares, losing patience. He steps forward, ready to deal with the boy himself, but the protagonist doesn't back down. He knows how to handle people like this. With a few smooth dodges, he avoids Austin's first moves. The others start to take notice. This is getting good. The girl smirks. "I'm rooting for the kid." Realizing the commotion might attract attention, the rest of the group decides to step in. But just as they move, the protagonist strikes first. A sharp knee to Austin's chin sends him crashing to the ground. Now, facing the rest of the group alone, the boy doesn't waver. Another teen charges and lands a punch straight to the boy's face. The impact sends him sliding across the ground. The second attacker scoffs. "Think you're tough, huh?" Still on the ground, the boy says nothing, but his eyes stay locked on them. "I've never been afraid," he says steadily. "I've never once thought about what comes after." He grabs a brick nearby. Rising, he adds, "But I always know how to react." With one swift motion, he strikes the high schooler in the head. The blow is brutal, and the teen drops immediately. Now, 2 are down. The rest of the group freezes. Stunned, Austin, the one they thought would lead the school, is bleeding, unconscious. Panic sets in. The others snap, rushing him in a fit of anger and revenge. But the boy charges back, wielding the brick. "I don't know why," he says, eyes intense. "Maybe I was born this way, but I've never lost a fight." The girl watches in shock, paralyzed. Beside her, someone trembles, whispering for help. One by one, the group is taken down. The brick, now soaked in blood, is still in the boy's hand as he turns to face the girl. He looks at her, a cold, unreadable expression. A few minutes later, inside a police station, an officer sits across from the boy. "Did you really do all that?" he asks, searching for a reaction. The boy remains silent, eyes distant. Just then, the door swings open. A woman rushes in, out of breath, wearing a coat. "Seth!" she calls out. The officer stands. The woman quickly apologizes. "It's all right," he says, though clearly shaken. They leave the station without another word. Outside, she looks at her son. "Are you hurt?" He shakes his head no. She kneels in front of him, her voice soft. "Then promise me something." Seth blinks, confused. "Promise me," she says. "You won't fight anymore. Not with anyone." After a moment, Seth nods. "Okay, I didn't want to see that look in your eyes again." She smiles faintly. "Thank you." But Seth's voice returns in narration. "Back then, I didn't understand what that sadness in her eyes really meant." Time passes. Seth is now in high school, walking into class with the same focused expression he's always had. Suddenly, the door flies open. A boy storms in, calling out, "Seth!" Without warning, he launches forward and kicks Seth in the back. You think, "You're funny, huh?" The kick sends Seth crashing into the wall. The boy stands over him and growls, "Just do what I say. If you've got money, give it to me, or go ask someone who does." Seth clenches his jaw, his anger rising. For a moment, it looks like he's about to fight back, but then he holds back. "I'm sorry," he mutters, not satisfied. The boy grabs Seth by the head and slams him to the ground. "Don't pull that again," he warns coldly. "And watch yourself, especially around me, unless you want problems." With that, the boy walks out, surrounded by his friends, all of them sneering and laughing at Seth. Left on the floor, Seth's body trembles with fury. He clenches his fists, barely containing the rage. Then he takes a slow, deep breath and whispers to himself, "I did well not reacting." Later that day, Seth walks into his home. His mother, working behind the counter of their restaurant, glances at him with concern. "How was school?" she asks. "Great," he lies, managing a smile. "And the restaurant?" he adds. "Doing very well," she says with a nod. Seth watches her for a moment. "All I want is to see that smile on your face, no matter what." Just then, a sleek black car pulls up in front of the restaurant. More cars follow. Seth and his mother step outside to see what's happening. Several men exit the vehicles, one of them holding a framed funeral photo. They approach silently. "He's gone," one of the men says solemnly. Seth's mother gasps, collapsing in shock. Seth rushes to her side. "Mom, what's happening?" He looks at the photo, and the memory crashes into him. That day, something had changed forever. Years later, Yen High School buzzes with rumors. A new transfer student is arriving. The students are curious, whispering among themselves. The student walks toward the classroom. The teacher turns to the class. "There's a new student joining us today. Someone help him settle in." The door opens. In steps the transfer student. "My name's Seth Kang," he says. The room goes silent. The girls exchange glances, admiring his looks. One of them blinks in surprise as if the name rings a bell, but the murmuring gets out of control, and the teacher snaps, "Quiet down." In the back, a group of boys chuckles with a strange gleam in their eyes. One of them suddenly freezes, recognizing something. His friend leans over. "What is it?" "That's him," the boy whispers. "That's really him." Seth introduces himself once more, and the teacher points to an open seat in the back. "Take that one." Seth walks to his desk and sits down beside a boy with spiky hair who's half asleep. As he settles in, the boy turns slowly and gives Seth a familiar mocking grin. Seth just smiles back, calm, knowing he recognizes them. They went to the same high school. During the break, one of the boys approaches Seth. "We were so bummed when you transferred." Soon, the rest of the group circles around him. "Looks like it's gonna be a fun year," one of them says with a grin. Seth smiles faintly, a quiet, unreadable smile. "Don't you remember me?" the boy asks. Seth's expression turns dark. Still smiling, but now empty. "How could I forget?" That hollow stare sends a chill down the boy's spine. His friend, unsettled, steps in angrily. "Are you crazy or something?" At that moment, the spiky-haired boy, still half asleep, mutters, "Be quiet." He lifts his head slightly, eyes groggy but annoyed. "Can't you see I'm trying to sleep?" His tired, irritated expression is enough to rattle the bully. "Sorry," the bully stammers, backing off. After narrowly avoiding a confrontation with the sleepy boy, the bully turns his attention back to Seth. "I'm not done with you yet," he snaps. Seth glances at his sleepy classmate, puzzled by what just happened. The classroom door creaks open. The teacher, a frail, elderly man, enters, trembling slightly as he makes his way to the front desk. He begins the lesson, but quickly forgets what he was supposed to teach. He stands in silence, confused. Meanwhile, the bully stews in anger. He really got away with it, he thinks, glaring at Seth. Next time, I'll make sure he doesn't. When he looks at Seth, he sees something unexpected. The boy is calmly gazing out the window, a faint smile on his face. Sitting beside the sleepy boy, Seth seems completely at ease, admiring the peaceful weather outside. Across the room, one of the girls watches him quietly. It has to be him, she thinks. The same boy I met when I was younger. But when Seth looks her way, her eyes widen, and she quickly turns around, startled. Seth blinks, confused. Does she know me too? But he shrugs it off, returning his attention to the window. Maybe this year's going to be interesting, he thinks. Relaxed, he leans back, and before long, he dozes off at his desk. A little while later, the spiky-haired boy opens his eyes, fully awake now. He glances at Seth, who's fast asleep under the table. The blonde boy stares for a moment, then quietly gets up and walks out of the classroom. The group of bullies, watching from their seats, is stunned. He just left him alone? Then it hits them. This is their chance. They rise from their seats and make their way over to Seth's desk, but before they can reach him, a girl steps in front of them. It's the one who recognized him earlier. You're not going near him, she says firmly. The E2's lead bully narrows his eyes. You trying to be a hero now? Fine, you're next. She doesn't flinch. You can't cause trouble in the classroom. I don't care about that, he growls. Move, but she stands her ground. I'm the class representative. I won't let you do whatever you want. Just then, a hand rests gently on her shoulder. It's Seth. He rises slowly, still groggy, but calm. I appreciate the help, he says, but step aside. He turns to the group and smirks. My high school friends. You missed me, huh? There's a flicker of excitement in his eyes. I missed you too, he says, clearly ready for a tea. Fight. The girl watches him, intrigued, trying to read what kind of person he really is. Seth turns to the group again. You know, back when I was younger, I held myself back for my mom. That catches the lead bully's attention. He senses something different now, something dangerous, but then he remembers his father's words. Never let anyone push you around. A few minutes later, the blonde-haired boy returns to class. He pauses. Something feels different. Scanning the room, he notices the bullies are nowhere to be seen. Shrugging, he walks back to his seat. Seth is still asleep, slumped over his desk like nothing happened. The class representative tries to sneak a look at him without turning her head. The blonde boy lowers his gaze again, resting his head to go. Back to sleep. The representative glances at Seth one more time, sleeping like a fool, she thinks. Meanwhile, in another hallway, a tall, intimidating student confronts the group of bullies. You lost to the transfer student? He asks, his tone calm but cutting. The bully, Nathan, has a bandage over his nose. Nervously, he tries to explain. Used to be weak in high school, but something changed. Nathan flashes back to the moment Seth knocked them all down with a single blow. The tall student, unimpressed, glares at him. You should be ashamed, losing to someone like that. Without another word, he turns and heads toward their classroom. He peers through the window, scanning the room. So, this is where the new guy is? He throws the door open with force, grabbing everyone's attention. Striding in, he starts. His speech, I heard there's a transfer student in this class. Let's see who he is. The class representative's eyes widen. No way. It's him. He scans the room. Nathan points subtly. He's the one next to Victor. The whole time, Seth continues to sleep peacefully. The big guy smirks. Well then, let's give him a proper welcome. One of the classmates leans toward the representative. What's he doing here? The towering figure walks up to Seth, but Seth doesn't move. Hey, the big guy says, irritated. I said I took care of your little money source. Still groggy, Seth lifts his head slowly. I'm Goblin, the guy says, from Yongsan High. You've heard of me, right? As he leans in, Goblin squints, taking a closer look at Seth's face. Something clicks. Wait, do I know you from somewhere? Seth tilts his head. What are you talking about? And then they both recognize each other. Goblin is the same boy who destroyed Seth's sandcastle all those years ago. Seth suddenly lights up. No way. Was that you? How've you been? How's your brother? Goblin forces a grin, but his body tenses. Cold sweat runs down his neck. Trying to play it cool, he mumbles, I'll see you later. Seth smiles, waving casually. Sure thing. All good. Goblin exits the classroom, tense. Outside, Nathan rushes up to him. You're just gonna walk away? I thought you were gonna deal with him. Goblin gives him a sharp look. Move. Nathan hesitates. Wait, what? I said. Get out of the way, Goblin growls, his tone unmistakably serious. Without another word, Goblin walks off. Nathan stares in confusion, turning back toward the classroom. He looks at Seth, who's now quietly watching out the window, completely calm. It feels strange, almost like Seth belongs here, like he's returned to where he's always meant to be. The class rep, meanwhile, watches him closely. She senses it too. Something's coming. Far away, Goblin pulls out his phone and makes a call to his older brother. Later, at Seth's home, inside the restaurant, Seth's mother greets him. How was school today? Seth shrugs, smiling. It was fun. She raises an eyebrow. You didn't forget the promise, did you? Seth chuckles. Of course not. I remember. I won't fight unless someone hits me first. She looks at him, still concerned. Seth grabs his bag. Anyway, I've got class. As Seth leaves the restaurant, a man greets him at the curb. Boss, Seth sighs. I told you to stop calling me that, he mutters. Sorry, boss. The man replies without hesitation. Seth shakes his head. Seriously, cut it out. He gets into the car and closes the door. Let's go, quickly. The driver nods and pulls away. Inside the restaurant, his mother watches them leave. Quiet, but thoughtful. Back at school, Seth is fast asleep at EC, his desk, sitting next to Victor. Time passes. One class after another drags on. The boys in the room chat lazily, talking nonsense. The class rep keeps stealing glances at Seth, who remains sprawled over his desk. Suddenly, the door swings open. The physical education teacher walks in, his expression already tired and unenthusiastic. Everyone, stand, the class rep calls, out instinctively. The teacher heads to the front, glancing around until he spots something in the back that irritates him. Two students still asleep. He marches over, his annoyance building. Stopping behind them, he grabs both Seth and Victor by the ears and yanks them upright. Wake up! Victor winces. Ow! What? The teacher glares. I let it slide last time because I had other things to deal with. But this again? Then he turns to Seth. And who are you? The class rep raises her hand quickly. He's the new transfer. Student, Seth Kang. The teacher frowns. Fine. Since you're both so tired, you'll get some fresh air. Out on the running field, Victor and Seth stand at the edge of the track, both clearly unenthusiastic. The teacher crosses his arms. You'll each run 3 laps around the field. He pauses. But here's the deal. Whoever finishes first won't be punished. The other raises an eyebrow. And the loser? Victor asks. The teacher smirks. He'll regret being born. Seth and Victor both blink. No reaction. The teacher shouts, Move it. Seth nods slowly. All right. Victor takes off immediately, jogging lazily at first. The teacher yells again. Seth, start running. Seth begins with little motivation, his pace casual. But then he glances at Victor and mutters, would be kinda embarrassing to lose. Victor hears him and grins, picking up speed. Seth keeps pace until Victor kicks it up a notch, trying to pull ahead. That shift wakes Seth up. Oh, so this is a challenge. His eyes light up, and suddenly he's sprinting. Both boys take off, flying past the stunned teacher. The teacher's eyes widen. What the? The two race like kids in a playground, constantly trying to outpace each other. Side by side, lap after lap, they finally reach the finish. Panting and drenched in sweat, Victor turns, still catching his breath, and eyes Seth curiously. Seth just smiles. This might actually be fun. Off to the side, the teacher still stands, stunned. He's the first student I've seen who could match Victor. The next day, the final round of the national team's open-weight fighting selection is underway. A confident blonde fighter boasts loudly, I'm this close to making the team. Just one more match to win. But standing across from him is a massive boy radiating an intimidating, silent aura. Spectators shift uncomfortably in their seats. The blonde man doesn't notice, or maybe he pretends not to, but his opponent is clearly annoyed. So much talk for someone who couldn't even last. The fight ends almost as quickly as it starts. The blonde man is defeated, and the crowd falls silent. Later, Brock Chang, the victorious fighter, returns to the locker room to rest, but a surprise visit interrupts him. It's Goblin. What are you doing here? Brock asks, towel still around his neck. Goblin's face is serious. He's back. Who? Brock asks, though his voice already wavers. The kid who beat us back then. Those words shake Brock. He drops onto the bench, visibly trembling. His brother, standing nearby, watches with concern. Back at school, Seth and Victor sit in the counseling room, called in by the PE teacher. "Don't sleep in my class again," the teacher says flatly. He then turns to Victor. "When's your next competition?" Victor shrugs. "Haven't registered yet?" The teacher sighs. "If you want to go pro, you need to keep your weight in check." He looks at Seth next. "Are you on any team?" Seth blinks. "Team? Athletics. Sports," the teacher clarifies. Seth shakes his head. "No, not on any team." The teacher's face falls. "Such a waste of talent." He waves them off. "Go back to class." Back in the classroom, the elderly teacher opens the door slowly. "Back already? Sit down." Victor and Seth exchange glances. They return to their desks, and almost instantly, both lie down again. Within moments, asleep. Later that afternoon, Brock arrives on campus. Why here? Of all places, he wonders. His presence causes a stir. Whispers spread like wildfire. Brock's back. The boys in the hall stiffen, tension rising. He walks toward the student council room. Inside, the council president raises an eyebrow. "Back again. Elsewhere." Seth sleeps soundly at his desk. Victor, now awake, gets up and heads out. He jogs down the hallway until he spots Brock. "Hey, broomhead," Victor says casually. "You know where Class 2B is?" Brock ignores him. Victor walks past, but suddenly, Brock grabs him by the shirt and pulls him back. Victor sighs. "Let go, or you'll regret it." Brock chuckles darkly. "You don't know who I am, do you?" Victor squints. "Nope, not a clue." That hits a nerve. Brock's smile fades. But before he can speak again, Victor lands a clean punch to his chin, breaking free. Without hesitation, Victor follows up with a flurry of blows. Brock stumbles, then stretches out his hand, grabbing Victor by the neck. He holds him tightly, lifting slightly. "That's it? That's all you've got?" Despite the pressure, Brock acknowledges, "You're strong." But still, he smirks. "You're not finishing me. I'm finishing you." Before he can act again, a familiar voice calls out, "Are you fighting again?" It's the PE teacher, watching from a few steps away. Brock freezes. Just outside, Seth exits the building, then pauses, noticing the commotion. He watches, confused. What's going on in this school? Unaware, of course, that all of this is happening because of him. Sophie stares, surprised by the sudden arrival of the student council president. Her friend leans in. "Maybe we should transfer to another classroom." Jason walks up and greets Sophie with a polite nod. "What are you doing here?" she asks. Jason replies calmly, "I'm here to ask a few questions." "Who's the new student? Did he do something wrong?" Sophie asks, already worried. "No," Jason replies. "I just need to talk to him." Right then, Seth stirs. He stretches loudly, yawning as if he hadn't just slept through half the day. The noise turns heads, including Jason's. The moment their eyes meet, Jason points. "You! Come with me to the council room." Seth blinks. "Who are you?" Sophie's eyes widen. "Wait!" She tries to explain. "That's the student council president." But before she can finish, Seth nods. "Thanks for visiting. Can we just talk here instead?" Jason's patience thins. "Just come along. Bring Victor with you." Sophie steps closer and quietly tells Seth, "He's a good guy. Just go with him, okay?" Seth nods, then he nudges Victor, who's still sleeping beside him. "Hey, wake up." Victor jolts upright, knocking over his chair. "What's going on now?" Seth smirks. "Come on, we're going to the council room." As Victor walks ahead, Seth notices the class representative watching him closely. To ease her worry, he flashes a calm smile. "I'll be right back." He follows after Victor. Inside the student council room, Victor drags a chair into place, plops down, and sighs. "So, why'd you call us here?" Jason adjusts his glasses, getting straight to the point. "Do you know who Brock Chang is?" Seth and Victor glance at each other, confused. Victor furrows his brow. "Wait, I think I fought some guy yesterday." Jason continues. "Until 2 years ago, this school was one of the top athletic academies in the country. The government sent elite athletes here to train and study." Victor shrugs. "Yeah, everyone knows that story. Why bring it up?" But Seth looks puzzled, clearly hearing it for the first time. Jason clarifies. "The school changed after Brock caused too many problems. It became a normal school, but now he's back, and he's looking for you." That gets their attention. Jason leans in slightly. "So, what's your connection to him?" Seth stays silent for a moment, then he answers plainly, "I don't know who Brock Chang is." Meanwhile, in the counseling office, the PE teacher talks with Brock. "I heard you made it to the national team," he says. "I thought that was your dream. Why don't you look happy?" Brock doesn't answer. He just rises to his feet. "I'm leaving. he says. The teacher sighs and calls after him, "Just remember one thing, no matter what happens, don't give up on sports." Brock stops for a second, but says nothing. He walks out, letting the door shut softly behind him. Back in the council room, Jason continues. "During Brock's time here, everything fell apart. I saw it with my own eyes." He speaks calmly, but with weight. "Students were suspended. Some had promising athletic careers, gone. By the time I got there, Brock had already fought half the senior class. Bloodied, furious." He pauses. "Then, he turned on me." Seth listens quietly. Jason adds, "He was nearly expelled. Almost sent to juvenile detention." Jason continues, his voice steady. "There was a judo team member here. He had a shot at joining the national team. Seth and Victor listen. But after that incident," Jason adds, "his future vanished. Sponsors pulled out. The school lost its prestige and became just ordinary. The club stayed, but the purpose, gone." He pauses before continuing. "The only reason Brock wasn't expelled is because of the PE teacher. He helped cover for him, got him into a private team." Seth shifts in his seat, visibly tired of the long story. Jason leans forward. "He came back because of you." Victor turns, looking at Seth sharply. "What does that even mean?" he mutters. But Seth just shakes his head, still clueless. "I don't get it either." After school, Seth and Victor walk toward the gate. Standing outside, waiting, is Sophie. Seth notices her instantly. Victor smirks. "Looks like someone was waiting for you." Sophie steps forward. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine," Seth replies. Victor nods. "Then I'll leave you to it. Good luck, lover boy." He walks off, waving goodbye. Seth watches him go, still puzzled. Turning to Sophie, he asks, "Were you waiting for me?" She hesitates, then hides her face behind her bag, trying to find her words. She finally looks up. "Do you remember me?" Seth blinks. "You're the class representative." That answer hits a nerve. "Seriously?" she says, annoyed. She takes a breath. "Do you remember when we were little?" Seth tilts his head. "Yeah, spring daycare, right? We were close back then." A small smile forms on Sophie's face. "You used to come to my house all the time," she says softly. "We played in the backyard, climbed trees. She trails off. Seth chuckles. "You kissed me on the cheek." He points to his face. "Don't worry, I won't tell anyone. We were just kids." But that doesn't help. Sophie suddenly looks deflated. "So, you waited just to ask me that?" Seth says, confused. At that moment, the student council members began to leave the building. Flustered, Sophie blurts out, "Who said I was waiting for you?" She quickly turns away and walks off to catch up with Jason and the others. Seth stays behind, watching them go. He smiles faintly. They actually get along pretty well, he thinks. He walks the other direction, alone. As he heads down the sidewalk, memories flood back. We were just kids. Seth smiles to himself, lost in thought. Up ahead, his ride is waiting. A familiar car parked at the curb. He opens the door and sees his driver asleep again. Seth slides into the back seat. "Why are you always so nervous?" he asks casually. The driver jumps awake. Sorry again, sir." Still half dazed, he asks, "Should we swing by your mother's restaurant?" Seth shakes his head. "No, just take me to the company." Later, they arrive at the Sunshine Group headquarters. Inside the president's office, Seth sits at the desk, bored out of his mind. Stacks of documents are piled in front of him. He flips through a few papers. "Do I really have to know all this stuff?" Across from him, his uncle sighs. "At least speak professionally when you're at work." Seth slouches. "But I'm not even officially the president yet." The two lock eyes, mentor and heir. The tension is clear between them. Seth leans back in the chair, sighing, but his uncle doesn't let it go. "The Sunshine Group exists because of your father's work," he says firmly. "You're his only son. It's your responsibility to inherit it." Seth frowns. "I'm only 17. I don't even understand half of this." His uncle's tone sharpens. "Sunshine isn't just some average corporation." He lowers his voice, serious now. "The roots of Sunshine came from what people call gangs. All we did was give it a legitimate face." He leans in. "This company runs deep, tied to the underworld, touching every sector through businesses no one dares talk about." Seth stays quiet, the weight of it all settling in. His uncle softens slightly. "You still have 2 years before full responsibility hits, but that doesn't mean much." He continues, "You're the son of the boss. All the executives already see you that way." Seth exhales slowly. Just then, the phone rings. His uncle picks up. The voice on the other end is brief. "The people from Buin are here." Before he can respond, the line cuts off. His expression hardens. Suddenly, the door slams open, kicked with force. "What do you think you're doing?" the uncle snaps. Marching in is Derek P., leader of the Buin group. Oh, am I not welcome anymore? Derek says mockingly. You've crossed a line, the uncle growls. This is betrayal. Derek's eyes narrow. I won't let that boy take over. He's just a kid. The insult makes the uncle lunge forward, but Seth quickly steps in between. Easy, Seth says calmly. He turns to Derek. How's your nose doing? Derek scowls. I was careless last time. Seth smirks. You want a rematch? His smile grows. Perfect timing. I've been in a terrible mood. Without warning, Seth lunges. Derek flinches, too slow to react. Seth's movement is quick, sharp, then a crunch echoes through the room. The next day, back at school, Seth steps out of the car. Thanks, he says to the driver, walking toward the gate. From across the courtyard, Jason watches. Their eyes meet briefly, a silent tension between them, before Seth disappears through the entrance. Jason stays focused. They're still watching for Brock. Elsewhere, Brock sits with his brother. I don't care how you do it, he says coldly. Bring him to me. Across the school, Jason spots Brock in the distance, already near the entrance. In the student council room, Jason gathers the council. I need everyone to avoid any fights with Brock. Gabe slams a hand on the desk. Who does he think he is? Why should we stay out of his way? Sam chimes in, calmly. Brock is a national representative. He's not going to waste his time on a fight, but that only angers Gabe more. All of this whole school's collapse, it's because of him. Jason tries to keep control. There's nothing we can do. That line snaps something in Gabe. He grits his teeth, standing up fast. You all came here to be athletes. This was supposed to be a top training school. And because of him, we lost everything. The room goes quiet. No one argues, because they know it's true. But what can they really do? Gabe suddenly kicks his chair, sending it sliding. I'm taking it back, he growls. Everything he stole from me. I'll get it back no matter what it takes. Meanwhile, Goblin walks into Seth's classroom and finds him sleeping again. He approaches carefully, leaning in. Hey, wake up. I need to talk. Seth groans, barely lifting his head. I'm tired. It's important. Goblin insists. That gets Seth's attention. With a sigh, he gets up. You want to talk outside? Seth asks. Goblin nods. The two head out together, while Victor watches silently from his desk in the hallway. As they disappear down the corridor, Sophie watches from her seat, concerned. Where are they going? What's happening? Out in the schoolyard, Brock stands among several unconscious students. The aftermath of a one-sided beatdown. He stretches lazily. That's it? That's all you've got? He scoffs. Gabe, furious, rushes at him with a kick, but Brock blocks it easily with his arm. Then, without hesitation, Brock grabs Gabe's leg midair. I hope you've said your prayers, he mutters. He yanks him off the ground and slams him hard against the concrete. Gabe crashes down, unmoving. Brock stares at him, bored. Maybe now you won't walk again, he mutters coldly. Just then, Jason, the student council president, arrives. That's enough, he says firmly. Brock turns and raises an eyebrow. Oh? It's you. Jason steps forward. What are you doing here, Brock? You don't have a grudge against this school anymore. I don't, Brock replies. I just came to talk to the new kid. Jason's voice stays even. Then don't cause any more problems on school grounds. Brock smirks. You're not scared of anything, huh? Makes sense. You've got a rich family. You're the president, but I'm still stronger than you. Jason doesn't flinch. This school can't afford another mess because of you. At that moment, Seth arrives, led by Goblin. Their eyes lock. Seth studies Brock's face, and recognition hits him. That's him. With a grin, Seth speaks. You haven't changed, T. Oh, I knew I recognized your brother's face. Brock steps forward, ready. Seth senses the shift and clenches his hands, fingers trembling. He slowly forms a fist. Jason immediately steps between them. No fighting. Brock's eyes narrow. Step aside. You don't want to regret this, but Jason holds his ground. Seth places a hand on Jason's shoulder. It's fine. He came to see me. Jason looks back at him, torn. I won't let this school get dragged into another mess, he warns. Seth reassures him. Nothing's going to happen here. He turns to Brock. Let's go to the gym. There'll be more space. He adds, you can choose the rules. I don't care how we fight. Brock doesn't respond. He simply stares. testing him. Seth doesn't blink. "I'm not scared of you," he says. "You can raise your hand. Throw a punch, whatever you want." Seth meets his stare with steel in his eyes. "Do I look like someone afraid of a fight?" Spectators nearby hold their breath, stunned by his calm intensity. Then Seth glances around. "We'll fight like athletes," he says. "Where's the gym?" Within minutes, rumors start to spread. The students whisper, "There's going to be a fight near the boxing club. All-out match, Seth vs. Brock." Inside the boxing ring, Seth and Brock stand face to face. The atmosphere is electric. Students gather, whispering, waiting. Seth stretches casually, flashing a confident smile at Brock. Brock silently warms up, removing his shirt and rotating his shoulders. From the sidelines, the student council girl leans toward Jason. "Well, aren't you going to stop this?" Up in the gym's bleachers, Nathan watches in disbelief. This is really happening? But suddenly, the PE teacher bursts in, yelling at the crowd. The tension spikes. Students fall silent, unsure of what's about to happen. The council girl throws Jason a glare. "This is your fault." But instead of ending the fight, the teacher calmly steps into the ring. He tosses a pair of gloves toward Seth. "You'll need these," he says. Then he announces, "I'll referee. MMA rules, 3 rounds, 3 minutes each." Seth looks at him and smirks. "Sounds good." Meanwhile, back in the classroom, a boy bursts through the door. "They're fighting. In the boxing gym." Sophie freezes, eyes wide. At the same moment, Victor jolts awake at the mention of Brock's name. They exchange a serious glance. Before they can move, the teacher steps in. "Remember, it's just a sport." Back in the gym, Seth leans in slightly and asks Brock, "Is this really because I knocked you down as a kid? Still sore about that?" Brock's fists tighten. "That was the only fight I ever lost," he growls. "Isn't that enough of a reason?" Dong! The teacher sounds the gong. The fight begins. Brock charges in, aiming for Seth's face, but Seth ducks with ease. In that motion, Seth sees an opening. He grabs Brock's arm and swiftly pulls him down by the neck. Knee! A clean strike lands in Brock's midsection. Brock gasps, stumbling to one knee, struggling for breath. Seth doesn't hesitate. Another strike connects near the collarbone, forcing him flat on the mat. Gasps ripple through the crowd. Seth stands calmly as Brock lies there. He turns to the teacher. "You're not going to count?" The teacher shrugs. "No rush." Seth turns back. To his surprise, Brock is moving again, shakily rising to his feet, wheezing. The crowd erupts. The match isn't over. From the gym entrance, Sophie arrives. Eyes wide as she scans the scene, Seth watches Brock take a step forward. He sighs. "You really should have stayed down." Brock lunges. But Seth steps aside smoothly, grabs his head, and throws him backward with force, slamming him to the mat. The gym falls silent again. Seth pins him down, calm but intense. "Do I look weak to you?" he asks. He pulls his fist back and delivers a solid punch. 1, 2, 3. Brock barely has time to react before another blow lands. The audience flinches. The teacher steps forward, raising his hand. "Stop the fight. That's enough." Seth pauses, breath steady, then slowly lowers his arm. Blood stains the mat and the crowd stares, stunned. Standing tall, Seth wipes his face and says again, this time louder, "Do I look weak to you?" At Kyun. Sunshine Hospital. Brock lies in bed, wrapped in bandages, still recovering from the brutal match. His eyes slowly open. Sitting beside him is the PE teacher, watching quietly. "You're awake," the teacher says. "The doctors say you'll need at least 2 months of rest." He sighs. "They were able to fix your nose, but you've got a fractured skull and a broken rib." Brock groans softly, taking it in. "I talked to your team," the teacher continues. "Told them it was an injury during training." After a pause, his tone hardens. "All this over a fight from when you were a kid?" But Brock, still staring at the ceiling, shakes his head slowly. "I don't care about that anymore," he mutters. "I found something more interesting than wrestling." Back at school, the classroom is filled with tension. Everyone sits silently, eyes on Seth. He sighs. Even that small sound makes a few students flinch. He rises from his seat and walks toward the hallway. Whispers follow him. He passes through the corridor slowly, noticing the fear in everyone's eyes. No one dares to speak. In the restroom, 2 students huddle near the sinks talking in hushed voices. "Did you hear? The new kid. He took down Brock." "No way," the other mutters. "That can't be real." They freeze as the door opens. Seth walks in. Calmly, he looks at them and says, "Could you move over a bit?" Panic flashes across their faces. They toss their cigarettes into the trash and bolt out without a word. A moment later, Victor walks in and stands next to Seth at the mirror. "Are you free after school?" Seth looks over, confused. Victor doesn't. "Wait, that fight with Brock, that was mine." His voice is sharp, eyes locked on Seth. "Boxing ring. Just you and me." That evening, Victor stands alone in front of the boxing ring, waiting. He tosses his bag to the side and pulls out a pair of gloves. His mind flashes back to his fight with Brock. How helpless he felt, how quickly it ended, and how Seth handled it like it was nothing. Victor clenches his fists. "I was scared," he admits to himself. Hours pass. Seth doesn't show. Victor's frustration grows. Meanwhile, at the Sunshine Group office, Seth is stuck behind a mountain of paperwork. He stands up, desperate. "I have to meet someone." His uncle doesn't even look up. "You're not leaving." "He's waiting for me," Seth insists. "You have responsibilities," his uncle replies flatly. Seth sits back down, disheartened. The next morning, Victor trains relentlessly in the school gym. His punches strike the heavy bag over and over. Again, a man approaches him, concerned. "Don't overdo it. You don't even have a fight coming up." Victor doesn't stop. "I have to stay ready." The man watches him for a moment. "You know, boxing won't take you far. You might want to consider MMA." Victor lowers his gloves, breathing hard. "I'm not doing this for money." The man pauses, caught off guard. Victor continues. "I made a promise. I'm going to be world champion. I'm not giving up until I get there." The man nods slowly, silenced. Victor grabs his things, calming down. "We'll get a fight soon. I'll be ready." He heads off towards school. Eyes forward, fists ready. As Victor exits the gym building, a sleek black car pulls up to the curb. Several men step out and approach him. They speak with urgency. "Sell the building," one of them says. "We'll pay what it's worth." Later, at school, Victor walks into his classroom and spots Seth, sprawled across his desk, half asleep. The sight irritates him instantly. The memory of yesterday's fight between Seth and Brock flashes in his mind. He walks over and kicks Seth's chair, jolting him awake. Seth groans, slowly lifting his head. He glances at the clock and frowns. It's not even 7 yet. Then, he turns around and sees Victor standing behind him. "You think it's funny?" Victor snaps. "Leaving me waiting like that?" Seth stretches and yawns. "Sorry, had a lot of work." Victor squints. "Work? Yeah," Seth mumbles. "I was swamped." Victor clenches his jaw. "If you bail on me again today, you'll regret it." But Seth stands up, a spark in his eyes. "Why do you think I came so early?" he says with a grin. "I don't run away when someone challenges me." Victor's temper flares. He cracks his knuckles. Then, without warning, he swings a punch, straight at Seth's face. Seth doesn't move. The punch connects, but something's off. Victor hears Seth's voice calmly say, "That's a good punch." He looks down and sees Seth's hand gripping his fist mid-strike. Then Seth begins to squeeze. Victor winces as the pressure builds. Until, crack, one of his fingers gives. Even through the pain, Victor keeps his focus. Seth meets his eyes. "You still want to keep going." Victor pulls back and repositions, preparing to strike with his other fist. But Seth dodges, again and again, until Victor finds himself backed up against the wall. Seizing the moment, Victor lunges, aiming a direct hit at Seth's face. But Seth reacts instantly. A swift slap knocks Victor's fist down, leaving him stunned. Victor tries again with the opposite hand, gearing up for another hit. But Seth's patience has run out. This time, he prepares to counter. Suddenly, the classroom door opens. A student steps inside and freezes at the scene. He sees Victor mid-swing and Seth ready to strike back. Victor catches the student's shocked expression and decides to stand down. Later, he mutters, during class. The tension in the room is thick. Everyone keeps sneaking glances at Seth and Victor. The two sit still, blank expressions, eyes forward, pretending nothing happened. Hours pass. Neither one speaks. Neither one looks at the other, until Sophie appears. At the door. "Seth, want to go get lunch?" Seth lights up. "Sure, let's go together." She blinks. "Together?" Victor slumps into his seat, glaring. "He's way too relaxed," he mutters. "Soon enough, we'll see who really comes out on top." Then he rests his head on the table and falls back asleep. When Seth and Sophie return to class, they find Victor asleep at his desk. Seth shrugs, then lies down to nap too. Sophie quietly returns to her seat, watching them both. Later that day, as school ends, Victor stands and calls out to Seth, "Come with me." Without another word, he starts walking. Seth grabs his things and follows, trying to ask, "Hey, where are we?" Victor cuts him off. They exit the school grounds in silence. Finally, Seth asks again, "Are we there yet?" Victor turns, just in time to see Seth stepping into a sleek black car. "I don't have much time," Seth says. "Get in." Victor hesitates, but climbs in. The driver looks uncomfortable. Where should I take you to?" That night, the car parks in front of Victor's boxing gym. The driver stays behind, leaning back and lighting a cigarette. He exhales slowly and mutters, "Think I can go home yet?" Before he can finish that thought, the same black car from earlier returns. Several men step out, this time armed. They move toward the gym. Inside the gym, Victor stands in the ring, calling out to Seth. Seth's eyes wander, pausing at a framed photo on the wall. A fighter posing with a child. "Hey," Victor calls, "you said you were busy. Hurry up." Seth steps into the ring. Victor watches him and says, "I've been curious about you ever since you transferred." Seth smirks. "Funny. How'd you see me if you were always asleep?" Victor's brow twitches. "Just give me the gloves." Victor shakes his head. "No gloves this time. This is my sport." The two stare each other down. Seth pulls off his tie and unbuttons his shirt. Victor freezes for a moment, startled by the number of scars across Seth's body. Seth grins. "Scared?" Victor grits his teeth. "Let's just fight." Victor lunges forward fast and sharp, aiming for Seth's head, but suddenly a voice yells from the entrance. "Stop!" Victor pulls back just in time. Panting at the door is his coach. "Who? Are the guys outside?" he asks. Seth and Victor exchange glances. Outside the gym, Seth sees his driver calmly restraining the armed intruders. "What happened?" Seth asks. "They were trying to break in." The driver replies. Seth scans their faces. "Who are they? Why target a gym?" The driver shrugs. "No idea. Want to ask one?" Seth nods. "Yeah, let's." Sunshine Group headquarters. One of the captured men sits nervously. "They said the gym had unpaid debts. We were just settling accounts." Seth folds his arms. "So, you were going to take over the place by force?" The man quickly adds, "No, we were told to offer to buy it, but if the coach refused." Seth looks over at his uncle. "What do we do now?" His uncle leans back and says, "Well, that depends. What do you want to do?" Back at school, the classroom is quiet. The teacher looks around. "Victor's not here again today." He scans the room. "Does anyone know where he might be?" A few students glance at Seth, suspicion in their eyes. Sophie turns her head toward him too, but the teacher simply shrugs. "No matter, let's begin." Hours pass, but Victor still doesn't show up in class. Then, suddenly, the door opens. He walks in without a word and heads straight to Seth's desk. Seth looks up. The two exchange a look. Without speaking, they walk out of the classroom, leaving. Sophie staring, visibly uneasy. Beside the school building, Victor stands in front of Seth, holding an envelope. He holds it up. "I got this yesterday," he says. Mind telling me what it is? Seth doesn't answer. Watching calm, Victor goes on. My debt and my dad's paid off. With interest. Seth raises an eyebrow. So? Victor's expression hardens. Was this you? Seth shrugs. And if it was? That pushes Victor over the edge. Don't meddle in my family's problems, he snaps. Seth tilts his head. Slightly. Is that how you protect your pride? Victor grabs him by the collar, but Seth stays calm. If you don't want the help, return the money. Victor's grip tightens. The collectors vanished. What did you do? Seth gently pushes his hands away. Just focus on your boxing. He pauses. You promised your dad you'd become a world champion, right? Victor's eyes widen. A step back. How do you know about that? Seth doesn't answer. He turns, walking away. If you ever want to settle things in the ring, I'll be there. Victor watches him disappear around the corner, fists clenched and mind racing. Back in class, Sophie sits at her desk, eyes fixed on the door. When Seth walks back in, she startles. He blinks. What were you doing? I thought you went. To fight again, she blurts, then tries to cover. As class representative, I have to look out for everyone. Seth grins. So, you were worried? Her face turns red. Obviously not. It's just responsibility. He chuckles. I'll probably fight the other guys in class soon. You haven't changed, you know. Sophie frowns. What do you mean? You're still the same. Kind, always looking out for people. He walks off. Sophie watches him. Go. Silently. But someone else is watching them too. From afar, the student council president narrows his eyes. It's getting too comfortable, he mutters. He needs to remember his place elsewhere. In a traditional Japanese-style house, Derek kneels alone in an empty room. The door behind him slides open. A man in a half-open kimono, tattoos covering his arms, bows slightly. Permission to enter. Inside, seated calmly, is Muki Rushin, leader of the Tonai gang. Derek bows deeply. My apologies, sir. Russian doesn't reply immediately. I'm disappointed in you, he says flatly. I understand, Derek responds quickly. But if you give me another chance, I'll finish the job. He explains his plan. With the heir still unconfirmed, if we had Tonai's support, he could take over Sunshine. Russian says nothing. Then, crack, he breaks his pipe against the floor. His eyes narrow. That must be his weakness. Before he can speak, Russian cuts in. Work carefully. No. Mistakes this time. Derek nods. Back at school, a group of boys barges into Seth's classroom led by Gabe, still bandaged from recent events. He wastes no time. All right. Who's the new kid? Seth raises his hand. That'd be me. Gabe eyes him coldly. You're the one who beat Brock. Seth nods slightly. Gabe jerks his thumb toward the hallway. Let's go. Now. But Seth doesn't move. He tilts his head. Do I look like a dog to you? I don't go when someone snaps their fingers. That hits a nerve. Before Gabe can react, Victor steps in. Move. The room tenses. As soon as the others recognize Victor, they back off a little. Gabe clenches. His jaw, until Sam walks in behind him. Leave the new kid alone. He adds with a smile, I've decided to join the judo club. That throws the room into silence. Gabe and Sam start arguing. Seth just watches, puzzled. Then someone else approaches from the hallway. Looks like we've got guests. A new group appears in the corridor. Daman Chi, head of the Moon Club, scowls. You again? He says to the newcomer. It's Scott Choi, head of the Kendall Club, and he's brought his own crew. Inside the room, Seth sighs and runs a hand through his hair. What is going on? Before things can escalate, Sophie raises her voice. Everyone! Enough! The room quiets. Your little turf war is ruining class, she says firmly. One by one, they start listing their excuses. Sophie isn't impressed. Out! All of you. She walks to the door and ushers them out. Once the room is quiet, again she turns to Seth. You can relax now. Then, bam! The main door opens again. All the boys rush back in, this time trying to recruit Seth to join their sports club. Seth stands there, surrounded, unsure how to respond. Sophie groans. Out! I said out, but they ignore her, making their pitches louder. Suddenly, the PE teacher enters. What's going on here? Everyone freezes. After a moment of awkward silence, the teacher sighs. I get it. I get it. Then, more sternly, enough chaos. Everyone, back to your rooms. Grumbling and disappointed, the boys leave one by one. Gabe lingers. I'll be back. We're not done. Seth just watches him go. Follow me, the teacher says to Seth. In the counseling room, Seth sits across from the teacher, still confused. Did I do something? The teacher chuckles. No, but let me explain something. He looks around the office as if reminiscing. We used to be an athletic school, top tier. Everyone here was part of a sports club. Seth nods slowly. I want you to consider joining one, the teacher says. Seth raises an eyebrow. Why? The teacher's voice softens. You remind me of someone. First year, talented. Every club wanted him. He pauses. His name was Brock. Seth catches the meaning. You don't want me to end up like him. The teacher nods. Exactly. Seth leans back. I appreciate it, but I don't really have time for sports. In the counseling room, the teacher frowns. How busy can a first-year student really be? He leans forward. You're just making excuses. But Seth meets his gaze without flinching. I'm more than I seem. He adds calmly, and honestly, ones who should be here are your students, not me. The teacher is left speechless. Seth stands. If you want to help, just tell them to stop bothering me. Walks to the door, then glances back. Oh, and I don't run from a fight. Outside the room, Jason listens quietly from behind the door. His expression darkens. Arrogant, he mutters. Later, Jason heads to an abandoned school building, tucked behind the main campus. Inside, a group of boys gather, smoking, talking. One of them notices him. Whoa. The council president. What are you doing here? Jason doesn't hesitate. I need your help, he says, to get rid of someone. End of the day. Seth walks through the quiet school grounds toward his car. As he passes a gated wall, someone appears behind him, swinging a piece of wood. Crack. Everything goes dark. Time passes. Seth slowly regains consciousness. He's now face to face with one of the boys Jason had spoken to earlier. The leader. The boy grins, speaking slowly as Seth blinks through the pain. Blood trickling from his forehead. Seth tries to stand, but just then, wham! He's struck in the back again by the boy with the wooden plank. Seth stumbles, then slowly lifts his head, staring directly at his attacker. His glare is cold and it gets under the boy's skin. Another student nearby scoffs. This is the guy who beat Brock. He looks weak. Don't be rude, another one mutters. Seth chuckles lightly as he gets to his feet. Well, this is an interesting situation. The group leader raises an eyebrow. Not scared? Impressive. Just then, the boy with the plank swings again, fast. But this time, Seth ducks smoothly, then counters with a sharp punch directly to the boy's hand. Crack! The wood flies from his grasp, spinning into the air. The attacker screams in pain, his hand shattered, and drops to the ground. Seth sighs. You're too loud. He walks up and lands 2 clean punches, dropping the boy completely. Turning to the group leader, Seth asks casually, So, who are you guys supposed to be? The leader doesn't answer. Seth shrugs. Doesn't matter. Let's finish this. The leader grits his teeth. You're cocky. He turns to the others. Take him down. The boys surround him. Seth glances around, calmly studying each face. The leader points. Now! They charge. Seth lets out a quiet breath and moves. He dodges, strikes, and drops his opponents one by one with fluid, precise blows. One tries to surprise him from behind with a chain, but Seth ducks and counters with a punch straight to his jaw. Another boy rushes from behind to hold him down, but Seth grabs the chain wielder and throws him into his teammate, sending both crashing to the ground. Seth grips the fallen attacker's chain, a crooked smile forming on his face. Now, this is getting fun, he mutters, eyes gleaming. The gang leader scowls. Enough. Finish him. His remaining henchmen rush off, returning with bats in hand. They charge. One swings. Seth dodges effortlessly. In a blur, he lashes out with sharp, clean strikes, dropping them one after another. But just as he moves forward, he's caught off. Guard. Two boys grab him, pinning his arms, locking him in place. A third. Approach. Bat raised. Seth twists and delivers a kick to the face, sending the attacker stumbling backward. He grabs one of the boys holding him and throws him into a nearby wall, freeing himself. Without a pause, he unleashes a flurry of punches on the second boy, knocking him to the floor. Another attacker rushes in from behind, bat in hand. Crack! The bat connects with Seth's head. He staggers, clutching the side of his head. Blood drips down his face. Seth lifts his hand, sees the blood, and goes still. Then, something shifts in his eyes. The room freezes. With a sudden roar, Seth charges the remaining attackers, rage behind every strike. One by one they fall, unable to keep up with his explosive counterattack. Their leader stands frozen, wide-eyed. No way. He stares in disbelief. It's him. The same boy who, years ago, took out his entire crew with a brick. Now, once again, Seth stands victorious. The leader tries to back away, but Seth grabs him by the collar, pulling him close. Who sent? You? He asks coldly. The boy trembles, unable to answer. Later, Seth walks back toward the main school building, brushing dust from his jacket. Inside the council room, Jason waits, flanked by two council members. He paces. What's taking them so long? Just then, the door creaks open. Seth walks in. Quiet and calm. Jason turns, startled. Seth walks forward, each step slow, deliberate. Jason rises from his chair. What are you doing here? Seth doesn't answer. Instead, he steps in close and suddenly grabs Jason by the collar, slamming him against the table. The room jolts. Seth leans in, voice low. You sent them after me, didn't you? Jason gasps for air. Just then, Sophie walks into the room, eyes widening at the scene. Seth? He releases Jason, who slumps down. Seth adjusts his shirt and looks at him one last time. Lucky you. He turns to the door, passing Sophie without a word. She stands still, frozen, shaken. Seth leaves. The next day, Sophie sits quietly at her desk, eyes distant, still processing what she saw. She glances toward the classroom door, waiting. Outside, a black car pulls up. Inside, Seth's uncle turns to him. I'm not going to ask what happened. He pauses. But from now on, you'll have some bodyguards. Seth nods silently as the car rolls forward. Even as Seth insists that nothing happened, his uncle doesn't buy it, especially with the visible cut on his face. Nothing? His uncle asks, raising an eyebrow. You call that scratch nothing? Seth sighs. I handled it. The two trade words for a moment, tension growing. Finally, Seth puts a hand up. Just don't make it a thing. But his uncle's tone sharpens. We're already dealing with enough. The Boozin and Pone leaders are stirring trouble again. He looks out the window. You'd better be prepared, Seth responds calmly. Fine. Just keep the bodyguards out of sight. At school, Seth walks into the classroom. Sophie startles as he passes by and takes his seat. Victor smirks. Rough night. He leans over. Let me guess. They beat you up, Seth replies dryly. 11-on-1. Victor laughs. Still sounds like nonsense. Just then, the PA system crackles. Seth Kang, report to the principal's office. Immediately, Sophie and Victor exchange glances. Victor mutters, You think this has to do with Jason? He adds, Careful, Jason's uncle is the principal, and his dad basically owns the school. No one really knows what they're capable of. In the principal's office, Seth walks in and sees Jason, seated beside several school staff members. At the center is Principal Calvin Shin. You're Seth Kang? Calvin asks. Yes, the principal frowns. Since your transfer, you've caused nothing but problems. Jason lets a smug smile creep onto his face. The principal continues reading the list of offenses, multiple fights, and assaulting. The student council president. Jason's smirk widens. Calvin closes the file. You're expelled. Silence. Jason looks pleased until he notices Seth smiling. Are you serious? Seth says. He casually pulls out his phone. Outside. Within minutes, black cars begin to arrive in front of the school. Students gather by the windows, murmuring. Who are they? Is something happening? Seth's uncle steps out of one of the vehicles, flanked by bodyguards. Back in the office, Calvin glares at Seth. What have you done? Just then, the door swings open. Jason stands up, alarmed. Who are these people? Before he can move, one of the bodyguards steps forward and restrains him. Stay quiet. Seth's uncle walks in calmly and hands an envelope to the principal. Calvin, flustered, scolds them. You can't just barge in here. The uncle remains composed. Read it. Calvin opens the envelope, and his expression shifts. Shock. Inside are documents revealing years of illegal activity tied to the school's foundation. The uncle speaks coolly. We'll keep quiet if you sign it over. Calvin slams the table. You can't be serious. Suddenly, one of the bodyguards grips Calvin by the collar. The uncle leans in. Funny thing. We know all about the misused funds, including the lunch money you rerouted for yourself. He smiles. Let's resolve this calmly. Later, at the Shin household, Calvin sits in silence across from his older brother. I'm sorry, Calvin says. I had no choice. I had to sell the school. His brother's face turns red with anger. You lost our school. Are you out of your mind? Calvin stammers, trying to explain, but every excuse only makes it worse. At the Shin household, Calvin flips through the documents, jaw tightening as he reads the letterhead. Sunshine Group, he mutters. They're nothing but criminals. Just then, Jason walks in. What happened at school? His father asks, not looking up. Jason explains everything. Seth's transfer, the fights, the confrontation, and, ultimately, how the school was handed over. His father listens quietly, then picks up the phone. Get me the senator, he tells the secretary. As he waits, he asks, Have you ever heard of the Sunshine Group? Meanwhile, at the Sunshine Group building, Seth stands beside his uncle in the office. His uncle leans back in his chair, satisfied. His uncle nods. Ever since you stepped into that school, we've been watching. Then he turns to Seth. Now, about the Youngin Foundation. Who do you want to appoint as the new director? Seth pauses. I haven't really thought about it. His uncle gives him a knowing look. I figured you had someone in mind. The next day, Seth enters the classroom and heads straight to his desk. He sits. From across the room, Victor watches him. Curious. Seth notices and stares back. They hold the gaze in silence for a moment until Victor looks away. Sophie, watching from a distance, gathers her courage. She walks up to Seth. Hey, are you okay? I didn't see you after you went to the principal's office. Seth raises an eyebrow. You were worried. You're a classmate, she replies, looking away. Seth gives a light chuckle. You didn't have to worry. I'm fine. He smiles gently, but before she can say more, the door slams open. Jason bursts in. Everyone turns. Seth, Kang, he shouts. Gasps ripple through the room. The student council president storming in like that, Jason's voice trembles. You really think I'd be afraid of a pathetic criminal like you? Seth stands calmly. Jason hesitates, then slams. The door shut and runs away. Seth just stares at the door, frozen for a second. What? Later, in the principal's office, the physical education teacher knocks. Come in, a man says from inside. The teacher steps in and sees Seth's uncle standing by the window. You wanted to see me. The uncle turns slightly. Yes, have a seat. The teacher complies. I'd like to make a request, the uncle says. The new owner of the school has chosen you to be the next principal. The teacher blinks. Me? The uncle nods, still looking out the window. You've earned it. That evening, Seth steps out of the school, ready to leave. Down a quiet alley near the gate, Jason waits, flanked by a group of hired boys. One of them asks, This is the guy we're supposed to bring? Jason nods. That's him. Another boy, checking. His phone, shrugs. Just a high schooler, huh? Easy enough. I need the money anyway. He turns the corner and sees Seth approaching. His eyes widen. Wait, that's the guy? As Seth gets into the car, Jason stands frozen in the alley. Confused. Furious, one of the boys he hired glared at him. "You didn't say we were after a murderer." He tosses the money in Jason's face and storms off. One by one, the others scatter, leaving Jason alone. His fists tremble with rage. He steps to the street, just in time to see a convoy of black cars rolling down the road, escorting Seth. Jason watches in silence. The cars fade into the distance, but the pressure stays with him. Back at Seth's mother's restaurant, she smiles softly as her son walks in. "Looks like someone's been having fun." Seth shrugs. "Yeah, it's been entertaining." Then he pauses. "Why don't we live with Dad?" Her smile fades, just a little. Noticing, Seth adds, "You don't have to answer if it's hard." She forces a smile. "I'll tell you. Another time." Seth nods. "All right." He stands. "I'll head out." She watches him go, eyes full of worry. Her memory drifts back. Years ago, she stood in front of Seth's father, holding their baby boy. "I don't want to separate," she pleaded. Seth's father looked away. "I can't risk putting you both in danger." Tears welled in her eyes as she looked down at her son. In that moment, she understood, even if it hurt. Present day. The restaurant door chimes. Derek walks in. "It's been a while," he says, smiling. Her expression tenses. The BC. Next morning. Inside the car, Seth reviews school files with his uncle. "I spoke with the PE teacher," the uncle says. "He'll be the new principal." Seth flips through a few reports. "The school's in bad shape," the uncle nods. "We're thinking of investing $3 million. Maybe more." Seth raises an eyebrow. "To turn it into an athletic school again?" His uncle smirks. "With the right students, anything's possible." He adds, "In Korea, money is power, and we have money." Seth leans back. "Yeah, we do." Back at school, class is dragging on. The elderly teacher's monotone voice fills the room. Seth and Victor are both dozing off until Seth's phone buzzes. He answers it groggily. "Yeah?" It's Derek, voice sharp. "You really don't recognize me, do you?" Seth yawns. "Sorry, I'm in class." Click. He hangs up. A second later, the phone buzzes again. Seth sighs, powers it off, and slides it into his bag. Across town, in a half-finished building, Derek stares at his phone. Number unavailable. He grits his teeth in frustration. Sitting across from him is Seth's mother. He turns to his men. "Bring him to me." This time, we end it. Meanwhile, in Seth's dream, he sees Victor's spiky hair glowing like a weapon. He reaches to touch it, only to imagine Victor being flung across a room. Seth mumbles in his sleep. Later that day, Seth steps out of school. When a silver van pulls up in front of the gate, 2 men step out. They walk up calmly and stop right in front of him. Seth raises an eyebrow. "Who are you guys?" They don't answer. Instead, one of them gestures. "Please come with us." Before Seth can respond, his driver, Rod, arrives in a black car. He gets out fast, fuming. "What do you think you're doing?" The henchmen freeze, recognizing him instantly. Rod glares. "You trying to give my boss orders now?" They back off slightly. Seth steps forward again. "So, what is it you want?" One of the men reaches into his suit and pulls out a phone. The man extends the phone towards Seth. It's a message from Derek. Seth grabs the device, but when he looks at the screen, his eyes widen. It's a video feed. His mother is seated in a chair, confined in what looks like a storage room. The henchman repeats, "We'll ask again. Come with us." But when he looks back up, he freezes. Seth's expression has completely changed. Fury radiates off him. Without a word, he lashes out, slamming the phone straight into the first man's face. Before the second can react, Seth hurls the phone at him, a split-second distraction, then lands a clean punch to his jaw. The man stumbles. Seth follows up, driving him to the ground. Fists clenched, rage burning. Crack! 2 of the man's teeth break against Seth's knuckles. Grabbing the henchman by the hair, Seth snarls, "Where is she?" The man panics and talks. Moments later, a fleet of black vehicles speeds through the streets. Inside the lead car, Seth holds the phone tightly, still seething. He calls his uncle. "They took her," Seth says, trying to control his breathing. "They took my mother." "Calm down," his uncle says sternly. "This is exactly what they want. Don't stoop to their level." But Seth grips the phone harder, voice breaking. "She's my mother." Meanwhile, inside the hideout, Derek tries to make another call. No signal. Frustrated, he lowers the phone and looks at Seth's mother, seated nearby. "Look, I've got nothing against you, but a kid running the Sunshine Group? That's not right." She doesn't blink. "Seth will do a better job than you ever could." Derek scoffs, but her tone grows sharper. "You're just a thug playing leader." She rises from the chair, slow and steady. Gone is the warmth, replaced by cold authority. Derek shifts uncomfortably. She steps closer, eyes locked on his. Back. In the car, Seth stares ahead, his jaw clenched. His uncle, seated beside him, lets out a sigh. "There's something I need to tell you." Whatever he says next leaves Seth in stunned silence. The fleet arrives. The vehicles stop outside a worn-down building. Seth steps out, fists still clenched. His uncle straightens his tie and joins him. "She's inside," one of the men says, nodding toward the building. Seth doesn't hesitate. He runs full speed, ascending the stairs 2 at a time. He stops at the door. Bang! He kicks it open. Inside. He freezes. His mother stands tall in the center of the room. All around her, men lie unconscious, groaning on the floor. In the corner, Derek is being held up by his shirt, barely conscious. "Mom?" Seth stares in disbelief. "What happened?" He turns to him, calm as ever. From the back, his uncle enters, bowing politely. "Apologies, ma'am. We'll leave the rest to you." Derek trembles, face pale. "Help me," he cries out. "Please, he's your son. Save me." Seth watches, stunned. His mother releases Derek, who drops to the floor in a heap. She turns to her son. "Come on," she says gently. "We need to open the cafe." Inside the cafe, Seth watches his mother, still a bit shaken. She sits across from him, calm and composed. "Mom," he finally says. "What happened back there?" She smiles, lightly. "What do you mean?" "You know," he presses. "How did you do that?" She leans forward, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "That's a secret." Seth's brow furrows, clearly more confused. She rests her hand on the table. "When the time is right, I'll tell you everything." But Seth hesitates. "I don't get it." Her smile widens, soft but firm. "You don't have to. I'm your mother, and that's all that matters." Seth doesn't reply. He just sits there, staring at her in silence. Outside the cafe, Rod, the driver, leans against the car, quietly smoking. A black car pulls up. Seth's uncle steps out briskly. Rod immediately bows. The uncle glances through the cafe window, watching mother and son inside. His face tightens. A memory flashes in his mind. Years ago, Seth, just a baby, sits on the floor. His mother plays with him, dangling a yo-yo. But suddenly, thwack! The yo-yo bounces off the baby's head. He falls and starts crying uncontrollably. Panicked, she tries to cheer him up by playing with the yo-yo again. She swings it, nearly hits him a second time. The baby flinches and topples over again. She scoops him up quickly, hugging him tight. In the background, Seth's father watches quietly, shaking his head. From the side of the room, the uncle observes the whole thing, saying nothing, but watching, as if holding on to something. Back in the present, the uncle and Rod stand silently outside. Then the uncle finally speaks. "Raimi." Rod turns to him. "Yes, sir?" "The rebellion in Busan. It was sparked by the Yakuza." Rod's expression hardens. The uncle clenches his jaw. "They're stirring up trouble everywhere." Then, with a bitter edge, he spits out, "Rotten Yakuza." He turns to Rod. "Watch the boss closely. I'm trusting you." Rod bows deeply. "I will, sir. And you can keep the gun." Rod lights up, a grin spreading across his face. "Thank you, sir." "Really, thank you." Shifting gears, the uncle adds, "We need to send someone to the school." Rod looks up. Someone, yes, Midaki Rushin, the leader of Santu Onai, is targeting the boss. Rod's smile fades instantly. "We'll need tighter protection. Someone who can blend in." The uncle narrows his eyes. "A student. Someone capable." Later that evening, at Sophie's house, she pokes at her dinner, clearly distracted. Across the table, her father watches her. "You're quiet tonight," he says. She doesn't look up. "I'm fine." He leans forward, concerned. "If someone's bothering you at school, just tell me." Sophie gives a small laugh. "You're a prosecutor, Dad. You're not supposed to say things like that." He smiles. "Doesn't matter. You're my daughter. That's what matters. I'm fine, really," she repeats softly. Why, Sophie's father stares at her for a moment, expression stern. It feels like something happened. Sophie avoids his gaze. "Nothing happened. I just want to finish eating." She scoops another spoonful of yogurt. Her father sighs and says nothing, tension hanging in the air. Later, on the balcony of their apartment, Sophie's father speaks quietly into his phone. Yes, this is Sophie's father. On the other end, Jason responds. "Ah, I was just about to call you. There've been some issues with a new student. I wasn't sure whether I should contact you or not." Hearing this, the father's expression hardens. He grips the edge of the railing tightly. Voice cold. "Tell me." "Everything." Outside the cafe, Seth's mother steps outside looking concerned. "Where is my son?" The uncle calmly replies, "At home, resting." She studies him. "Do you need something?" The uncle lowers his gaze. "I just wanted to say, I'm sorry." She stands. "No need, don't worry." But the uncle insists. "We'll take you home. It's not safe yet." She smiles gently. "Have you already forgotten? I'm staying away from him, because I love him." She turns back toward the cafe. You focus on Seth. The uncle falls silent. "At home?" Seth tosses and turns in bed. His brow is damp with sweat. Eventually he sits up, breathing hard. His eyes dart around the room. "Mom!" The silence unnerves him. Meanwhile, let's take a closer look at Rod, the driver. A man with a calm exterior and a wild side. His hobby? Racing. The kind of guy who balances luxury cars with street adrenaline. Elsewhere, in a traditional dojo, an elderly man smokes his pipe quietly as his subordinate kneels before him. "We failed," the subordinate reports. The old man exhales a stream of smoke. "I knew it. Can't trust the Koreans." He stands, annoyed. The younger man hesitates. "What about Sunshine?" The elder pauses. Is their leader still in the preparatory division? "Yes." The old man nods slowly. "Then send Acura." "Are you sure?" "We'll bring them down," the old man growls. "And to do that, we'll need everything. Back." At Y Gym High School, students crowd the courtyard, chatting and laughing. From above, the new principal watches through the window. The former PE teacher, now promoted, adjusts his chair behind a desk overflowing with papers. He sighs deeply. Was just a teacher. He leans back. Let's see how this works out. Suddenly, the phone rings. He picks it up quickly. "Hello?" A calm voice replies, "This is Sunshine Corporation." The teacher sits upright. "Yes?" The caller continues. "There will be a new student. Place them in the same class as Seth Kang." The principal blinks. "Why?" But the line goes dead. The question is never answered. You don't have to worry. So a sudden knock on the door makes the new principal jump out of his seat. Before he can say anything, the door creaks open. Standing in the doorway is Brock. Now, fully healed, he walks in calmly. The principal blinks, in shock. "Brock, what are you doing here? You never come to school." Brock steps closer, serious. "I came to congratulate you on becoming principal." He pauses. "And to ask you for a favor." Still stunned, the principal narrows his eyes. "A favor?" Brock lowers his head. "I want to re-enroll. I want to graduate." The principal stares, unable to make sense of what he just heard. In the hallway, a student walks past, unaware of what's about to unfold. Inside the classroom, The teacher continues lecturing until she suddenly glances at the door. "Before we continue," she says, "we have new students joining today." Whispers break out across the room. She turns to the side. "You can come in now." The door opens slowly. The classroom falls completely silent. Brock Chim steps in. The room freezes. The teacher nods. "Please introduce yourself." Brock speaks flatly. "I'm Brock Chim," gasps Echo. Some students slide back in their chairs. "Quiet, please," the teacher snaps. She looks back toward the door. "And our second new student." Another figure enters. Calm, collected. He walks beside Brock and turns to the class with a soft smile. "I'm Jun Kim Sayang. It's a pleasure to meet you." The girls swoon instantly. Whispers ripple through the rows. The boys? Not impressed. The teacher adjusts her glasses awkwardly. "Are you two really high school students?" She clears her throat. "Please take the empty seats in the back." Brock leads the way down the aisle. Every step sends a wave of unease across the room. Eyes follow them nervously. They pass Seth, sitting in the back. Brock pauses, locking eyes with him. But Seth doesn't flinch. Instead, he leans back in his chair and flashes a slow, sadistic grin. Brock just keeps walking. Some time later, a classic black car pulls up outside the school gates. The driver looks at the woman beside him. "Miss Akira, we've arrived." Speaking in another language, she nods. "So this is the school?" She touches up her hair in the mirror. "I can't wait to meet him." Back inside, class continues. Victor and Seth are, as usual, fast asleep at their desks. Sitting nearby, the two new students, Brock and June, draw wary glances. From everyone. The teacher forces a smile and addresses the class. "Is everyone going on the graduation trip?" No one answers. Awkward silence. Trying to ease the tension, she looks toward the back. "What about you two?" June. Kim smiles kindly. "I'll go." Brock stays silent, then glances over at the two sleeping figures. "Yeah," he says quietly. "I'll go." The teacher clears her throat again, nervous. "Oh, okay then. I'll see you all tomorrow." She steps toward the door. She adds, "Please make friends with the new students." She leaves. The room stays dead quiet. As soon as the teacher leaves, the classroom explodes into chaos. Students whisper, eyes darting nervously. Suddenly, Victor and Seth stir awake. They sit up, just as Brock rises from his seat. The students, in front of him, flinch, spooked by his towering presence. From across the room, Jun Kim watches silently, an amused smile playing on his lips. Then, one of the school bullies steps forward, walking straight towards Seth and Victor. Seth sits still, gaze sharp and unreadable. But before anything can happen, Brock steps in, silently blocking the path. Victor sighs. "Yeah, I'll leave this too. You guys." He stands, adjusting his backpack anew, but the bully slams an arm across his chest, stopping him. The size difference is obvious. Victor raises an eyebrow. "Seriously? What are you doing?" In the back, June watches, clearly entertained. Later, in the school courtyard, Victor stands with his hands in his pockets, clearly annoyed. "So, you want to fight?" Across from him, Brock keeps his voice calm. "I figured you weren't dumb enough to start something here." Victor grits his teeth. "You arrogant." He throws his bag to the ground. "You think just because Seth beat you, now you're an easy target for me?" Brock doesn't respond, just stares. Victor clenches his fists, memories of their previous fight flashing in his mind. He'd nearly won, if the teacher hadn't stopped them. Now, without hesitation, he gets into a stance. "Come on, let's settle this." But Brock speaks first. "In the ring," he says simply. "With gloves." Victor blinks. "What? I want to learn boxing," Brock explains. "And I'll learn faster if I fight someone like you." Victor stares, trying to process what just happened. Meanwhile, out front near the school gates, Seth walks alone, bag slung over one shoulder. Behind him, Sophie follows nervously, clutching something in her hand. "Hey!" she calls out, voice cracking. Seth stops and turns. Did I do something? She shakes her head quickly. No, I just wanted to ask. She steps forward, holding out 2 movie tickets. I got these Saturday. It's supposed to be a good movie. Seth glances at the tickets, then back at her. He smiles. I'm in. Her eyes widen. Wait, really? He nods. Sure, why not? Relieved, she exhales. That's good. She smiles, her fingers gripping the tickets a little tighter. After a moment, Seth tilts his head. Hey, are you free today? Sophie blinks. Today? Yeah. You hungry? She's caught off guard, totally flustered. I found this spot. Great food. Want to check it out? A smile starts to spread across her face. I'd love to. Seth grins. You like spicy? Sophie laughs. Who doesn't? Trust me, he says. This place is amazing. As they walk together into the fading light, their laughter drifts behind them. The day ending on something sweet. In front of the school, Seth's car pulls up to the curb. The driver, Rodney, waits behind the wheel when someone walks up and knocks on the window. Rodney lowers it slightly and pauses when he sees who it is. What happens if the boss finds out? He mutters. The stranger leans in with a smile. Relax, it's just me, your new student, Jun Kim. Rodney squints. What are you talking about? Jun Kim shrugs. Your boss is on a date. That's what I meant. Rodney looks even more confused. Changing the subject, Jun Kim casually asks, Got a cigarette? Rodney frowns. You want to smoke? In uniform. Jun Kim sighs, glancing down. Pretending to be a student is suffocating. Rodney scoffs. You're insane. Still, he pulls out a cigarette and lights it. Jun Kim chuckles. You're the worst. They smoke quietly for a moment. How's school? Rodney eventually asks. Jun Kim exhales slowly. They're just kids. Rodney's expression darkens. Nothing can happen to the boss. Jun Kim smirks, then rolls up his sleeve slightly, revealing a hidden blade tucked into a wrist holster. You know me, he says, eyes sharp. Rodney stares, then looks away. That's what I'm afraid of. Later that night, in the boxing gym, Victor and Brock square off under the lights. Gloves on. Focus sharp. Victor throws a punch. Brock blocks. The rhythm builds. Victor's speed picks up. Rapid strikes pounding. Brock's guard. Still, the big guy holds his ground. Victor spots an opening. He fires. A clean shot to the ribs. Brock grunts, pain written across his face. Then, wham! Another punch lands, this time a hook to the side of the Brock's face. He staggers. Victor doesn't let up. His strikes coming harder and faster. Sweat pours down his face. Still want to keep going? Victor asks, breathing hard. Brock doesn't answer. Then he lifts his eyes. Is that all you've got? Victor freezes, veins flaring with frustration. Oh, you've got guts. He unloads another combo. Can't even throw a punch, can you? Brock stays defensive. Victor wipes sweat from his brow. You said you wanted to learn boxing. Then fight me. He winds up for the final blow, aiming high, but just as he swings, Brock dodges. Clean. They lock eyes, mid-motion. Silence. Brock exhales, trembling slightly, and then charges forward. Victor reacts, pulling back and slipping into a defensive stance as he's pushed toward the corner of the ring. Brock throws a powerful strike. Victor ducks and snaps back with a sharp uppercut. Perfect form. Direct hit. He resets, standing tall. Brock just watches him, silent. Victor shakes his head. Are you ever gonna land a punch? Back in the boxing ring, Victor exhales, wiping sweat from his brow, but Brock interrupts his thoughts. What are you doing? He growls. Come on, fight me. Victor's eyes twitch with rage. You arrogant bastard. They both charge, full speed, fists drawn, colliding at the center of the ring. Meanwhile, in a dark movie theater, on screen, chaos erupts. an action horror scene in full swing. Sophie trembles in her seat, eyes wide with fear. Suddenly, she grabs onto Seth's jacket. Without missing a beat, Seth casually places his hand over hers. She glances down, surprised by the contact. Blushing, she slowly pulls her hand away. Seth just chuckles quietly, amused. Some time later, the movie ends. Crowds start shuffling out of the theater. Seth and Sophie walk side by side. "Did you like it?" Seth asks. Sophie nods. "Yeah, it was fun." Seth smiles. "Same here." She grins. "Glad to hear that. I should head home." But Seth stops her. "Hey, want to grab something to eat?" She blinks, caught off guard. "Isn't that how dates usually go?" He adds, grinning. "Movie, then food? Wait, was this a date?" She stammers, without answering. Seth grabs her hand cheerfully. "Come on, I know a place." Inside a stylish restaurant, owned by the Sunshine Group. They take their seats at a private table. Sophie glances around. Everything upscale and immaculate. She leans toward Seth. "Is this place expensive?" Seth smiles. "Don't worry, just eat." A waiter approaches and begins setting down. Silverware and plates with care. Sophie quietly thanks him. As the waiter walks away, she exhales a soft sigh. Seth notices. "Something wrong?" She hesitates. "It's just, this all feels like too much." Seth shrugs. "It's free." Sophie raises an eyebrow. "Free?" Seth grins. "The restaurant belongs to our company, so technically we don't pay." Sophie blinks in disbelief. "Your company? It's complicated," Seth replies casually, "but I'm richer than I look." Sophie bursts into a soft laugh. Seth raises an eyebrow. "What? You don't believe me?" "No," she says quickly. "It's not that." He leans in. "Then why are you laughing?" Looking away, she admits, "Because I got jealous when you said you're rich." Seth laughs. Then, with a playful tone, "So, when's our second date?" Sophie turns bright red. Another day. On the road. A fleet of black cars drives down a long highway. Inside the lead vehicle sits Seth, his uncle, and Rodney behind the wheel. They ride in silence. Then the uncle speaks. "I'm sending people to Jew Island," he says, calm and firm. "Japanese. Gangs are definitely plotting something." Seth leans back. "It's a school trip," he says dryly. "Nothing's going to happen." The uncle doesn't respond. Neither does Seth. The car drives on. Sometime later, the car pulls over near a quiet residential area. Seth steps out, arms crossed, taking a deep breath. "I'm heading out," he says flatly, then stops. He glances back. "Don't worry, nothing's going to happen." Slam! The car door shuts behind him. He walks off toward a row of houses, hands still tucked into his sleeves. Inside the car, his uncle turns to Rodney. "Follow him." Rodney looks surprised. "Huh? But Jab's already there." The uncle narrows his eyes. "I've already spoken to the local gangs on Jew Island. They're watching him. But I'll feel better if you're there too." Rodney nods. "Got it." Then grinning, he leans back in his seat. "I've always wanted to see Jew anyway." Shortly after, they board a flight. Later, on Jew Island, excited chatter fills the air as students unload from the plane, full of energy. Suddenly, thwack, their teacher smacks one of them lightly. "On the head." "Quiet down," she snaps. "You're not babies, are you?" She scowls. "Onto the bus. Now." The students shuffle into line, still buzzing with energy. Inside the bus, the teacher looks around. "Everyone here?" The driver gives a thumbs up. The bus rumbles to life, and the wheels start turning. They arrive at the Jew Tours Hotel. The buses stop. One by one, the students file out. Among them are Sophie, Victor, Brock, Kim, and Seth. The teacher clutches her clipboard. "Your class is on the 8th floor. Room names are posted on your doors. You've got 1 hour to unpack. Go." With The buses start pulling away again. Inside the hotel, students scramble to find their rooms. Seth walks down the hall with Victor and Brock. When they reach a door, Kim smirks. I'm right next door. The trio heads into their room. Seth looks around. Not bad. Without hesitation, he drops his bag on a bed. Called it. From the other side of the room, Victor snaps, Hey, why'd you take the big bed? He turns to see Brock casually unpacking on it. Brock looks over. Got a problem with that? The two glare at each other. Silence crackling. In the air. An hour later, at Jewing Jolly, a popular local park, students from multiple schools gather in small groups. Their teacher stands at the front of their bus. Everyone listen up, she says firmly. There are other schools here too. Make sure you remember your bus number. Be back by 3 p.m. Or you're walking back. Students laugh, but the warning's clear. They start boarding different shuttles and heading out. Meanwhile, Seth is still passed out on one of the bus seats, arms folded, head down. Suddenly, a voice calls out, Seth! He lifts his head groggily. It's Sophie, smiling. Want to go for a walk? Seth's eyes light up. Of course. Elsewhere, Victor lies back in the grass, arms behind his head. The wind is calm. Birds chirp nearby, but then, movement. A group of unfamiliar students walks past. They move in formation, sharp, focused. Victor squints. Damn Chinese, he mutters, narrowing his eyes. They look strong. Brock walks past the same group, eyes locked, calm and collected. Elsewhere, Jun Kim stands under the shade of a tree, cigarette in hand. He takes a long drag, until a tap on the shoulder catches his attention. It's Rodney.Kim smirks. Oh, look who finally showed up. The two exchange laughs, casually chatting like old friends reunited. Meanwhile, Seth and Sophie descend a long staircase together, talking and laughing. But just as they reach the bottom, 3 boys step in their way. Seth stops. It's the same Chinese group Victor saw earlier. One of them glances at Sophie. Korean girls really are beautiful, he says with a grin. You should come hang out with us. Sophie shifts uncomfortably. Another adds, Why are you wasting time with this weak guy? Seth stays quiet, but his eyes darken. What did you just say? None of them answers. They just stare, smirking. Seth clenches his fists, ready to respond. But then, Sophie steps forward. She speaks in fluent Chinese. Is this how you want Koreans to see Chinese people? The boys freeze. Even Seth looks surprised. She continues, firm but calm. Stop giving people a reason to hate us. One of the guys chuckles. You speak Chinese? Another adds, so the skinny guy's your boyfriend? Sophie ignores them. She turns around, gently placing her hand on Seth's arm. Let's go, she says quietly. Seth doesn't resist. He nods and follows. As they climb back up the stairs, the group behind them laughs and mocks, unaware of what's coming. Seth's expression? Dead calm and deeply irritated. A while later, at a nearby park, they sit on a bench, the sun peeking through the trees. Seth, still thinking, finally asks, Wait, do you speak Chinese? Sophie smiles. I lived there when I was little, because of my dad's job. She shrugs. I kept studying the language. Didn't want to forget. Seth grins. That's pretty cool. He pauses. So, what did they actually say? Sophie shakes her head. Nothing worth remembering. A moment passes. Then Seth stands up. I'm heading to the bathroom. He flashes a suspicious grin. I'll be right back. But instead of the bathroom, he heads straight back to the staircase. From the top, he spots the same group lounging around, laughing. Seth calls out. They look up. His eyes are sharp, almost unhinged. Without warning, he leaps down toward them, back at the bench. Sophie checks her watch. Seth returns, looking calm. The bathroom was a bit far, he says casually. She shrugs. No worries. What now? She asks. Seth points to a nearby overlook. The view's amazing over there. Let's grab a picture. They walk off, still laughing as if nothing ever happened. Moments later, a new figure arrives at the staircase. He stops, shocked. His teammates lie unconscious on the ground. What happened here? He rushes over to one of them and punches him in the head to wake him up. Get up! What the hell happened? Nervously, the student stammers, "A Korean kid." He took out the whole group. The leader clenches his jaw, furious. You're not ashamed? Getting beaten by a Korean? His voice sharpens. We're finding him. Now. He turns to his men, barking orders. Split up. Search every corner. Nearby, 2 students walk side by side, laughing lightly. Suddenly, they're stopped. 2 Chinese students step in, aggressive. Was it you? One growls, raising his leg, and kicks, but before he can continue, his partner grabs his shoulder. Obviously not them. Keep looking. They move on. A few minutes later, they stumble upon Victor, sprawled on the grass, fast asleep. One of them points, excited. There, a Korean kid. They circle around him. Without warning, thwack. One kicks Victor, waking him up instantly. Victor rubs his head. What are you looking for? The guy hesitates. Probably not you. Victor stands slowly, clearly annoyed. What are you staring at? He cracks his neck, looking around at the group. A fight or what? His grin widens. The blonde starts to rise, but the other student raises a hand. Sit back down. I said sit. Bam! Victor lands a clean punch, mid-sentence, straight to the guy's face. He crashes to the ground. His classmates gather around him, stunned. Victor looks down at him. What was that you were saying? Elsewhere. Brock sits on the grass, gazing at the open view. A voice calls out from behind. He turns slightly. A Chinese student approaches. You're the one who beat my boys? He asks. You look strong. Brock doesn't answer, just stares. Without warning, the student charges, swinging a punch. But Brock blocks it. Effortlessly, without even turning around, he grips the attacker's hand tightly. The guy flinches, trembling. Still facing away, Brock breaks the silence. Thanks. I was starting to get bored. Gritting his teeth, the attacker hisses, You punk! Let go of my hand. But Brock doesn't budge. The guy tries to punch again. Blocked. Then, in a flash, Brock turns and slips behind him. He grabs the guy from behind, locking in a tight bear hug. You! The man growls. You bastard! Brock starts lifting. Him. Higher, squeezing with brutal force. And then, with a swift, powerful motion, slams him down in a flawless Greek wrestling throw. The watching Chinese students are frozen in place. Shocked, Brock stands, brushing off his hands. He looks at them coldly. Come on then. You all want some too? Later that afternoon, groups of students begin heading toward their assigned buses. The teacher stands near the lot, clipboard in hand, calling names and checking boxes. Most students are already seated. One of the students, the one who got punched earlier, sits on the bus, still fuming, arms crossed, muttering under his breath. Inside the bus, Seth and Sophie are laughing, comfortably seated. Their quiet moment is interrupted as someone steps onto the bus. Seth glances up. It's Victor. Curious, he watches the blonde walk past them without saying a word and drops into the seat directly behind them. Moments later, Brock boards too. He makes his way down the aisle silently. Seeing them both return together, Seth raises an eyebrow, but says nothing. A brief flashback shows Victor, who overpowers his attackers with raw speed and precision. Brock, calm and unstoppable, finished off his fight just as cleanly. Back in the present, the bus fills with quiet conversation. Seth and Sophie continue chatting, relaxed. Then the teacher enters, clipboard in hand. Sophie, is everyone here? She asks. Sophie stands and glances around. Looks like... Wait, Kim's not back yet. The teacher's eye twitches. I told everyone to be on time. Elsewhere, at the edge of the lot, Jun Kim leans against the wall, casually smoking. Rodney stands next to him, arms crossed. They're deep in a quiet conversation. Suddenly, footsteps. Rodney tenses up immediately. Kim calmly turns his head, already pulling something from his sleeve. But it's not a threat. It's the teacher, and she does not look amused. With a blank stare and icy presence, she speaks. What exactly are you doing here? Rodney gulps. Kim blinks, slowly stashing the weapon away. He's definitely in trouble now. Later that night, back at the hotel, in their shared room, Brock stares at his reflection in the window, silent and focused. Seth lies on the bed, music in his ears, eyes closed. Victor is on the floor, doing push-ups with perfect form. Brock finally turns and looks towards Seth. Seth senses it, removing one earbud. What? He asks. Brock replies calmly, You'll find out soon. Seth raises an eyebrow, confused, but grins and puts his earbuds back in. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the hotel, Kim, the teacher, and Rodney are in a quiet room. The teacher looks furious. A student. Smoking? She growls. Do you have any idea how bad that is at your age? She crosses her arms. I thought you were more mature than the other new student. And where'd you learn behavior like this? Instead of answering, Kim pulls out a card. His ID. It reads, Born in 1991. She stares, stunned. Wait, you're 27? Kim sighs. I had to leave school for family reasons, but I still want to learn. The teacher, still shocked, mutters, You're older than me by 3 years. Kim steps closer, gently takes her hand. With a small, sincere smile, he asks, Can you forgive me this once? Please? Her cheeks flushed. Fine, she mumbles. Outside. The room. Rodney stands guard. From a short distance, a child tugs on their mother's hand. Mom, that man looks weird. Rodney hears it and sighs. Kids these days. Later that night, somewhere on Jew Island, inside a smoky karaoke minibar, the atmosphere is heavy. A triad leader sits with a drink in hand, surrounded by his 3 nervous henchmen. He takes a sip, grimacing. These cream drinks. As weak as you 3, he mutters. No one dares respond. He's seated at a table just across from them, staring them down. One of the henchmen swallows hard. We underestimated those kids. At that, the leader stops drinking. His expression darkens. You what? Without warning. Crash! He throws the bottle at the speaker's head. It shatters with a sickening crack. You lost to Koreans? You call yourselves men? Blood trickles down the boy's forehead. But he doesn't. Speak, you pathetic bastards, the leader spits. Where's your shame? He slams his glass down. Bring that boy to me tomorrow. The wounded henchman stays silent, holding his neck. The leader narrows his eyes, voice chilling. Do you even remember what uniform you're wearing? The room falls silent. Elsewhere, at a quiet restaurant on Jew Island, Bob, also known as Ramy, the driver, approaches the front steps. He enters casually. Inside, a man sitting at a table notices him immediately. Raising his hand with a grin, he calls out, Hey, it's been a while. Bob exhales as he walks. Over. Too long. This man is Josh Ian, also known as Joe Yun, the Jew branch chief of the Sunshine Group. Joe squints. Where's Jab? Thought he was coming too. Bob shrugs. He's still with the boss. Joe raises an eyebrow. But he's head of the bodyguards, isn't he? Bob gives a vague smile. We've got other reasons. Joe lets it go, waving a hand. Come on, let's eat first. He signals to the staff. A table is set with fresh seafood, steaming dishes, and aromatic side plates. Bob's eyes go wide. This is all for us, Joe grins. Jew Island's finest fish. Dig in. Bob doesn't wait. He starts eating, and as flavors explode in his mouth, he nearly tears up. Joe chuckles. Must be tough looking after a kid like that, huh? but Bob shakes his head. No, not at all. Joe leans back, still smiling. I heard Derek brought him in. Bob stays silent, cheeks still full of food. Joe laughs again, and rumor has it Derek got beaten up by you. Bob chokes, almost spits out his food. Joe pats the table, amused. Don't worry, just enjoy your meal while you can. After a hearty meal, Bob leans back, full and happy. Thanks for the food. Seriously. Joe nods. It was good, wasn't it? Bob looks out the window. Must be nice. Joe tilts his head. Huh? Bob continues. Living somewhere with food like this. Joe doesn't answer right away, but then slowly smiles. Jew used to be great, but lately the Chinese gangs have been pushing in. There's a lot to clean up. Bob's expression hardens slightly. Joe keeps talking. The triad wants our turf. Bob frowns. You should probably report this to Peter. Interrupting Bob's thoughts, Joe sips his drink and says casually, It's not official yet. They're just throwing money around, trying to stir things up. No direct confrontation so far. Bob exhales. So, not a real problem yet. Joe nods, then leans forward. Well, maybe. But here's the thing. The head of the triad, he's already here, right now. Bob freezes. What? Do you mean? Joe shrugs, grinning. High school trip? They gave us a heads up, told us to keep an eye on things. Bob rubs his neck. Well, our boss is here too. Should be fine. Joe leans back, mock casual. It's just a school trip, right? What could go wrong? He raises a finger. Now, how about some drinks with sashimi? Bob hesitates. I really should be watching the boss. Joe throws his arms open. Come on, just one drink. My guys are thrilled to see you again. Bob grins awkwardly. All right, just one. Later that night, back at the hotel, buses start arriving, pulling up one after another. Students gather near the lobby, laughing and stretching. Behind a wall, one of the Chinese students makes a discreet phone call. I found him, he says softly. I'll follow and report what happens. He hangs up, eyes tracking a specific target. Next morning, the teacher stands in front of the group, clipboard in hand. We're heading to Mount Hallasan, she announces. It's a 5-hour round trip. Hike. Up and back. Groans echo through the crowd. The teacher frowns. Quiet down. If it gets too difficult, you can turn back. But don't wander off. You're not allowed to go anywhere else. Buses arrive at the hiking location. As students step off, one stretches dramatically while another sighs in defeat. In the distance, a black car pulls up. Inside, a man watches the students carefully. He picks up the phone. They've arrived, he mutters. I'll stay on them. On the trail, the group begins the hike. Laughter and conversation fill the air. Seth, Sophie, Victor, Brock, and others are among them. Even the Chinese students are present. Victor and Brock walk side by side, joking casually. Suddenly, a group appears in front. Of them, a large group. One of the strangers steps forward. We're here for you two, he says flatly. Victor blinks. What? Elsewhere, on the trail, Seth and Sophie are walking together, chatting. A man steps onto the path, blocking their way. You, come with us. Our boss is waiting. Behind him, more men lined up. Sophie frowns. Again? What do you want this time? The man glances at her coldly. We're not here for you. Stay out of it. Sophie starts to protest, but Seth places a hand gently on her shoulder. Head back, he says calmly. I'll catch up. Sophie hesitates, confused, but something in his tone stops her from arguing. Back on the trail, the man stands, silent, waiting. Seth glares at him, fists clenched. So it's me you're here for? The man responds, calmly, in Chinese. Seth narrows his eyes. What's he saying? They stare each other down. Nearby, Victor has already sized up the threat. Without warning, he lunges, aiming. A right hook, but the man slips past it with ease. Victor's eyes widen. Too fast. The stranger counters. Slam! A clean shot to Victor's gut. The force of the punch sends him flying back. Victor stumbles. manages to stay on his feet. But the pain takes over. He drops to his knees, clutching his stomach. You, Bass? Before he can finish, he collapses to the ground. Brock watches, stunned. Seth's expression turns cold, his fury rising. The Chinese leader starts speaking again, voice filled with excitement. Brock clenches his jaw in disgust. But, before anyone else can act, another figure steps forward. It's Jun Kim, eyes sharp and smile. "Unhinged, you piece of trash," he mutters. With that, he charges. Kim throws a high kick, aiming for the man's head, but the opponent ducks easily. Kim's eyes widen. He's fast. Immediately, Kim resets and pivots for another strike, but this time, He-Man's fist comes flying toward his face. Just in time, Kim dodges. Barely, he readies a counter, stepping into range. But again, the opponent strikes first. A brutal kick to the chin sends Kim staggering back. Seth's watching. Jaw tight. He's too fast for his size. The Chinese fighter grins, clearly enjoying the fight. Kim steadies himself, preparing to block. Another kick flies toward him. But this time, Seth steps in. He catches the leg and throws the man back, finally. Knocking him off balance, the attacker hits the ground hard but rolls back up to his feet instantly. Still standing, Seth cracks his neck. Now, this is getting fun. The Chinese man stares at him, surprised, maybe even impressed. Elsewhere, on the trail, Sophie runs up to the teacher, out of breath. "Ma'am, something's happening." The teacher's eyes widen. What? Not far away, Kim and Rodney sit casually by the trees, smoking and chatting. Suddenly, they hear a commotion. Rodney turns. "What's going on?" Kim exhales, watching the trees. "Looks like it's starting." Rodney stubs out his cigarette. "Better check it out." They both get up and head toward the noise, back in the woods. The battle continues. Seth dodges a heavy punch from the Chinese fighter, then retaliates. He swings with an open palm, but his opponent ducks. Seth resets, again and again, but this guy reads every move. The fight is far from over. The fight rages on. Seth and the Chinese leader exchange blow after blow, each attack faster than the last. But still, neither one lands a clean hit. Brock watches, stunned. The surrounding Chinese students whisper among themselves, wide-eyed. They expected the boss to finish this quickly, but that clearly isn't happening. The Chinese leader strikes again, fast and heavy, but it misses. Seth sees it, a perfect opening. A wild grin spreads across his face. Finally, he moves, fast, attempting to land the counter, but again the big man dodges. Then he starts to spin, winding up for a heavy strike. His fist cuts through the air, fast, powerful, closing in on Seth, but suddenly, thwack! Seth stops. He catches the man's arm in midair, and then he laughs. A low, twisted laugh, completely unfazed. The Chinese fighter flinches. Seth stares at him with wild, unblinking eyes. "Is that all you've got?" Just then, Kim and Rodney arrive, watching from the edge of the clearing. Kim narrows his eyes. "This is intense." Rodney folds his arms, observing. "He's strong. Really strong." Kim turns to him. "Is he really just a student?" Rodney chuckles. "He almost beat Peter." Kim freezes. "Peter?" Rodney nods. 2 years ago. Kim falls silent, clearly shaken. Then this could get bad. Back in the fight, realizing his arm is trapped, the Chinese leader growls in frustration, cursing in his native language. He wrenches free and grabs Seth's wrist with his other hand, winding up for a counterattack. Kim and Rodney lean in as the tension builds. Seth remains focused, eyes sharp. Boom. Seth launches forward, a brutal headbutt to the face. The impact echoes through the trees. The Chinese fighter stumbles, backward, dazed, holding his face. Seth steps in, ready to end it. But suddenly, a foot swings toward his head. Seth reacts fast, ducks, the kick barely missing him. As the foot slams into the ground, Seth rolls back, flipping away to create distance. Panting, he looks up, confused. "Who the hell are you?" A man in sunglasses steps forward from the trees, calm and cool. He turns to the Chinese leader. "You're done. Step aside." The leader grits his teeth. "I haven't lost yet," he snaps. "Back off." The man doesn't flinch. "You're injured. Keep pushing and you'll regret it." Furious, the big guy shouts, "I'm not losing to a Korean." He clenches his fists, but something shifts. His eyes widen, sensing something behind him. Seth approaches. "Hey," he says flatly, "I asked who you are." Before the man in sunglasses can answer, Seth swings, but he dodges. Effortlessly, tilting his head just out of range, Seth turns back to the Chinese fighter and lands a crushing punch to his face. The blow echoes like thunder. Back on the mountain trail, the man in sunglasses stares in shock as Seth's fist slams into the Chinese fighter's face. The larger man collapses to the ground, writhing in pain. Seth steps forward, winding up for a final blow, but behind him, the man in sunglasses moves, fast. He raises his hand, aiming to knock Seth out from behind, but Seth catches it. Without turning, Seth grabs the man's wrist, stopping him mid-strike. A tense silence fills the air. At the edge of the clearing, Bob and Kim arrive. Bob looks on quietly, but Kim is furious. The two steps in, joining the confrontation. Now, the three face off against the man in sunglasses. Without hesitation, Rodney reaches into his jacket, pulling out a strange, sleek weapon. Kim does the same, revealing a concealed blade from within his sleeve as he steps forward. The man in sunglasses falters for the first time. "Who are you people?" he asks, genuinely confused. Suddenly, cut to the